Staring at herself in the mirror on the restroom door. Voices in her head that mirror what she's heard before.
Hey beautiful people, it's your girl Shakima. I'm just stopping in for a quick reading for you guys for the Jupiter retrograde. So at the time I'm filming this, guys, it is June 19th, and Jupiter actually goes retrograde tomorrow on June 20th in the sign of Pisces, and it's going to be in retrograde in Pisces until July 27th, when it goes into Aquarius on July 28th. We'll be able to kind of, I guess, work with different energies then, and I will be able to obviously unpack all of this for the different tribes, for the individual zodiac signs as I do my other readings. So hang tight for that, guys. But I am pretty much just here to kind of give you guys some insight into seeing how the next several months, because Jupiter is going to be retrograde altogether from the 20th of June right the way up until the 18th of October. So we've got a good 3 to 4 months window where things, as far as our blessings, are going to be reevaluated. Let's put it like that. So hang tight for all of the awesomeness. And before I do get into it, I do just want to let you guys know, a little disclaimer, these are going to be general readings for the collective, so it's not going to resonate with everyone. If it doesn't resonate, do just let it dissipate, okay? But if it does resonate, then definitely be sure to comment down below and let me know how you've been able to effectively utilize the info, and yeah, how you're actually getting on with the Jupiter retrograde transit. All of that awesomeness out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it. Sorry about my hair as well, guys. I actually washed my hair today and I've got a little bun going at the back. I actually didn't rinse my product, so I'm literally just kind of stepping into the space to see for us what is going to be occurring. Personally, I am a Pisces sun, so where Jupiter is actually going retrograde in my sign, I'm intrigued to see what is going to actually be unfolding for us during this period of this Jupiter retrograde season. So I'm going to get on with the cards now. Hopefully we'll be as quick as possible with this. If not, try and hang in there with me, guys, okay? Stay tuned, folks. Right, guys, so now that we are here and ready to kind of dive into it and chop it up, let's split the deck and sort of see what's actually going to be occurring for us. What do you see taking place for this Jupiter retrograde season? Let's see. Okay, so we're definitely going to be dealing with a lot of the how can I put it, we're going to be going through a recovery period from some of the backstabbing situations that we've had. So this is another healing period for us, and it seems as though we're more so kind of like healing from hidden agendas of others, maybe even times where we've discounted our own inner voice and our own inner presence that's kind of advising us on certain things. So this is definitely going to be an interesting trip for us. It seems as though there's obviously, because Jupiter, bless him, is the blessings giver, or so he's kind of like known as. And what we're going to be sort of like doing at this point is reevaluating some of the perceived blessings. So maybe people might have done things with hidden agenda or offered things to you having their own hidden motives, and you're kind of like reevaluating and questioning certain things because you're dissatisfied basically with the results, or you may be in a process of feeling like the dissatisfaction is imminent. Maybe they had been greedy with your time or energy or resources, or you may have been the one who was exhibiting some of these greedy behaviors where you wanted more than somebody else could give in certain situations, and you're left feeling disappointed. It seems as though we're actually closing out some of those cycles during the course of the next 4 months during the Jupiter retrograde period. So Jupiter's actually really going to be helping us to reevaluate some of our subconscious patterns when it comes to situations around how we put ourselves in potentially harmful situations and how we make decisions, basically putting ourselves in a victim predisposition in certain situations based on certain programming that we have in relation to old experiences. So we're definitely going through a subconscious upgrade and overhaul. during the period of the retrograde season between June to the 27th of July, when Jupiter is finished its retrograde period with our subconscious mind and working through some of the psychological programming that are perhaps no longer serving us when it comes to certain relationships. That does have the likelihood to, let me make this very clear, to stab us in the back. We see the red flags, we avoid them, we try to paint them different colors, or we try to make excuses or justifications for people's behaviors. And then we have this kind of feeling of dissatisfaction once some of those negative patterns start to overflow into their toxicity, into our relationship, or them breeding that toxicity into your personal relationship with them. Jupiter's asking you to really sort of like be vigilant in your observations, essentially. And once it goes into Aquarius on the 28th of July, I feel like Jupiter is then saying, do you know what? We're going to take it back a scale. Now, we're not even just looking at your personal environment in terms of some of the blessings that you feel as though you've received. We're actually now going to be taking it out a little bit further into how you're actually showing up in public. How has some of those situations where you've overlooked certain people's negative patterns, how has that affected your ability to show up for yourself? How has that affected the version of yourself that you're presenting to the world? How has that misrepresented yourself in ways in terms of your ability to be able to communicate with certain people about certain situations? All of that awesomeness out of the way. That was more of an intuitive on the actual like astrological aspect of stuff. Just briefly, we're gonna go ahead and dive into it. So let's have a little look and see, my loves. Right, so where are we as a collective during this Jupiter retrograde? Okay, we have a few cards that had presented themselves, so let's have a look and see what the guys are saying. So we have, my loves, 3 major arcanas here. So what I'm seeing, so the position that we're in, okay, it seems as though we are, how can I put this? There's been certain situations that have really sort of tested us and tempted us to basically be more resourceful, tempted us to pretty much just kind of like find that inner magician within ourselves and take action on certain situations. So there may have been situations where it was more of a diversionary tactic for you to take certain actions in the past, or you've been used to taking certain actions, or people have been used to you taking certain actions in the past. When it comes to, I want to say, when it comes to kind of your overall soulmate relationships, your soulmate relationships are going through an evaluation, because you've had to be very resourceful in terms of how you're giving yourself to people and how you're sharing yourself with people. You know, are you taking the time to be able to receive just as much as you're giving, or are you kind of like at that place where you're constantly giving to the point where you don't necessarily know how to just sit back and be still and receive? It seems as though your strength is being tested during this Jupiter retrograde transit. So what do I mean by that? You may find that there are situations that's going to call for your patience. You may find that there may be situations that's going to call for you to be compassionate with and to others. And you may even find that you will find yourself in situations where you may have to mother other people's shadows, mother their demons. Because it seems as though there's like a bit of emotional turbulence that may be sort of like taking place with the situation. Some of you may be navigating through situations involving jealousy, which is why you're having to be compassionate, being able to kind of like observe from the other person's perspective, or see things from where they are on their own journey of things. Or maybe you're the one that's kind of navigating through your own shadow of jealousy that's been ignited by situations where how I'm seeing it is that you feel as though there are certain blessings that were rightfully yours that were given to others, essentially. So there may be jealousy surrounding that. But what I'm hearing is that your outlook on the situation wasn't all the way realistic to begin with. So even though you had the desire to manifest certain things, and even though you put certain actions into play, you needed to be a little bit more realistic about the level of generosity that you were going to receive back from the universe, and just kind of like being conspicuous of your environment enough to be able to read the room and read what's actually taking place for you. But I'm seeing that you're navigating through a lot of moodiness, and you're having to find your strength of being able to kind of just be courageous in the way that you're dealing with situation, operating from a place of integrity, operating from a place of not necessarily just distracting yourself with certain actions that you think is going to basically keep you away from the work that's necessary, because that's how I'm seeing it. There's a lot of stuff going on with your moon energy. So what I mean by that is that there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of subconscious insecurities that are taking place in terms of you feeling like people are giving from a place of genuine sincerity. You actually feel as though they're giving with strings attached, that there's hidden agendas, and this may not even be you feeling that way. You may be the one projecting this type of energy where you're giving with very high expectations of not only others, so there may be silent expectations that you're not communicating to others, and those are some of the diversion tactics that you're basically going to be feeling a little bit moody about, and you're going to be working on that. You're going to be forced to take action on the way that you have a tendency to basically distract yourself with other people's BS, for lack of a better way of putting it. Like you pretty much you pretty much put yourself in this position sometimes where you take on the weight of other people's burdens, and you give to a point where you actually find yourself being moody and unrealistic about what it is that. So the best way that I can put it, how I'm hearing it, they're kind of like explaining it to me. You're realistic, your expectations are unrealistic because you haven't set the scope for that. You haven't set the precedent for certain things. So you haven't had certain conversations. You haven't been clear cut in your direction about certain things to certain people. So it's unrealistic basically for you to assume that the outcome was going to be any more fair or just. But you're just going to have to navigate through the emotional turbulence, this moody situation, this feeling of jealousy that's taking place due to our own personal insecurities definitely has to be addressed. So you've got the next 4 months to work on that. So that's going to be interesting for us, guys. What path are we crossing as a collective as we're navigating? Okay. I don't know if you guys saw how that flew out, but we are crossing the King of Swords in reverse. So this is very, very interesting. We're crossing manipulative energy. We are crossing, and interestingly enough, we've actually got the King of Cups at the bottom of the deck upright. So we've got a lot of internalized energy. Again, we're very intellectual at being able to kind of like be perceptive about what's going on around us when we choose to be. Sometimes we see things, like I said, we see the red flags and we tend to discount them because of our emotional attachment to certain people, and we assume that that's going to protect us from being collateral damage to their own primitive natures, their own demons and shadows. Okay, that's there to protect their human as they're navigating through their process. Their human's going to do whatever their human needs to do for themselves. It's no shade in their game. It's just the reality of the situation. So what I'm seeing is that the path that we're crossing is pretty much manipulative energy. It's really knowing the truth about something and somebody else being able to kind of manipulate the situation based on lies, essentially, because a half-truth is a whole lie, and if a person has to manipulate you, the chances are that they're trying to cover something up, which is more than likely the truth. So the path that we're crossing is really trying to navigate through being emotionally calm and stable through the manipulation of others, how we have allowed for ourselves to be manipulated, and how we perhaps have maybe even manipulated others. We're kind of like untangling some of those contracts. It seems as though we're on that path to untangling some of those contracts so that we can get to more of an emotionally calm place, particularly to do with our career situations, guys. Okay, what I can see is that there are offers that are coming in as well, as far as like the position that we're in. It's just that we have a lot of insecurities about why they're coming in and where they're coming from and what potentially it may mean for us actually moving forward with certain situations. So we're just having to kind of like stay strong in our ability to be confident in what it is that we're doing, and knowing that what is for us will never pass us, you know? And making sure that we're disciplined with ourselves and not just constantly trying to divert from the work that needs to be done, but really being able to dive into the work and move through it as opposed to leaving it lingering, you know? So yeah, let's have a look and see what's actually going on in the subconscious mind. What's going on in the subconscious mind for us, Spirit, as we're navigating? Okay, in the subconscious mind, we've got the Two of Wands energy, guys. So for me, this is letting me know that Jupiter is pretty much asking us to really think about our future plans. Okay, again, we've got the King of Cups at the bottom of the deck. So Jupiter wants us to be able to evaluate our future plans that are going to allow us to be emotionally calm, be emotionally present within our career situation, so that we're not just constantly dealing with mental restlessness and conflict and feeling defeated and feeling as though it's going to take more than what we've got. You know, we've got just about enough in the bank to be able to fill whatever gap needs to be filled in terms of the things that we're manifesting. So what I do see is that in the subconscious mind, we're really sort of looking towards our future plan. There is progress subconsciously, is what I'm seeing, and it does involve us being able to make a lot of decisions about that future trajectory, making decisions about that future, I guess, programming. Like, how do we see ourselves showing up in some of these dynamics? Are we going to continue to navigate through situations from our old patterns? Are we going to continue to take from this person when we know that there's an agenda attached? Are we going to continue to give with hidden expectations, or are we going to be speaking up about what it is that the price is for whatever it is that we're kind of paying forward to someone? You know, your energy, your time, these things. Again, we live in a universe of equal exchange. So when you give your time, it's natural for you to feel as though your time needs to be respected, you know? And it's really just one of those things where we're really thinking about how we're going to be progressing moving forward, where we're placing our energy, who we're hanging around with, how much time we're giving to those relationships, what type of dynamic we're engaging with in those relationships. And we're literally figuring out now how to take action to resolve some of our inner turmoil and inner conflict. So our insecurities more than likely are going to be highlighted and brought to surface, particularly around our, I want to say, our soulmate dynamics. So you know, people that you felt like was really for you, people that you felt like was really invested, or you were really invested in their journey. You're starting to really realize that maybe some of those relationships were actually manifested, so they came into your orbit at a time where you were probably dealing with some of your own insecurities. And now for some of you guys who've taken action to deal with some of those insecurities, you're questioning whether or not some of those relationships still serve you. And for some of you guys, you are questioning whether or not you want to go back into the space of some of those old relationships now that you've gone through a process of healing some of your insecurities. So it's different for everyone, but I can see that, you know, overall it seems as though we're taking the necessary steps towards making decisions for a future that is more conducive to being emotionally in balance with the things that we say that we want, and being more generous to ourselves and being more in control of our emotional reflections and how they actually show up. So it's going to be very, very interesting, guys. Let's have a look and see what's going on in the conscious mind for us as a collective. Okay, so what I want to say is Mercury is retrograde at the minute, as I'm kind of like filming this as well. So I think Mercury finishes its retrograde period on the 22nd of June. So we are going to be in like the post shadow period for a further 2 weeks. So it seems as though maybe by like the 5th, I want to say maybe the 5th of July is when we'll really start to feel as though our mind is a little bit more clear and cohesive to being able to make some of these future plans. For now, it seems as though from the 20th to the first week of July, we are more so just navigating through the manipulation. We're just navigating through the manipulation and making future plans on how to avoid certain situations moving forward, and how to make better decisions when it comes to certain situations moving forward as well. In the conscious mind, we have the Page of Cups and we've got the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. So what this is saying to me is that you're going to be getting a lot of downloads about the new beginnings that are necessary, but there's still a cycle that needs to be closed out. There still is a lack of completion when it comes to the actual manifestation of some of these goals. What I do see is that a lot of you guys are dealing with 8 of Swords energy, where you're imposing yourself based on like really just being idealistic, maybe in terms of how you want certain things to be. So it's almost like you're leaving yourself stagnant because you want for things, oh, I've got to do this first before I can do that, and I need to do that before I can get to this. And that may just be you kind of trying to, again, be in control of the situation, but naturally there's a rhythm that's already occurring. I think the only thing that you can do is learn to master the rhythm, and that puts you in control of the emotional tides that may show up at any particular time. So what I'm actually seeing is that in the conscious mind, there's a lot of synchronicities that's taking place to let you know that you haven't necessarily done certain things to be able to get onto certain timelines for some of the future plans that you have, because you're, again, just restricting yourself and you're seeing things from too narrow-minded of a perspective. There's too many restrictions in place, and you're kind of like imposing too many limitations on what the future could potentially hold for yourself. Okay. What I do see as well is that for some of us, as we're kind of navigating through this battle of the dragons, you know, your inner demons kind of like coming out, because retrograde season, we're actually like navigating through eclipse season as well. So demons are going through egoic debts, and we are actually paying off karmic debts in the process. And in the process of that, we're also actually clearing and making room for a little bit more greener pastures, where we're not just constantly on the battlefield, because we're picking our battles a lot wiser. We are a little bit on edge, and we may be slightly paranoid about certain things, which is why we may be imposing ourselves and leaving ourselves blind to certain other possibilities. So we may just kind of have to, in the conscious mind, we'll basically be able to kind of like see what isn't working, and we'll be forced to address those things. Okay, and that's where the patience is going to come in. That's where the courage to be able to step forward, regardless of maybe not being entirely clear on everything, and knowing that the universe has your back regardless. That is probably going to be useful. I guess moving in the conscious mind, there's definitely some creative beginnings kind of like taking place, or old projects maybe that you've been working on for a while. They're really starting to be cultivated during this Jupiter retrograde season. And some of it may be because we've been kind of like putting certain things off and distracting ourselves, like I said, with other things, or we may be utilizing some of those old projects to distract us from some of the emotional turbulence that we're experiencing right now, as a way to be able to kind of like just kind of focus on the future plans. Let's see, what is the outcome for us as a collective for this Jupiter retrograde transit? Spirit, as clearly as you can. Okay, the outcome is that we are going to release this 8 of Swords energy. Interesting, guys, because we had the 8 of Swords energy at the bottom of the deck upright in the conscious mind. So that was the undertone. We're having to break away from some of these restrictions. We're having to learn how to be more open. We're having to learn how to be more flexible, and basically just kind of allow for ourselves to be less moody about things not necessarily going our way, and again, know that what is for us will never pass us. You know, the things that we may be feeling moody or jealous about, some of us may be not making certain decisions because we don't want to have that energy projected onto us, where people are feeling moody or they are feeling jealous about our success and progress. Again, that is not your problem. That is a he/she issue that they have to deal with. But what I am seeing as a collective is that we'll be a little bit more open. We'll be a little bit more open to just not being so moody about the situations, being a little bit more realistic in terms of our approach to certain situations when it comes to certain people, and holding ourselves accountable for the way that we're actually navigating through some of these things that are coming up. Because we're going through a major arcana during this particular transit. We've got like 3, we've got the Strength card, the Magician, and the Moon card. as far as like our position. So we definitely have like a lot of big battles that we're going to be navigating through during the next 4 months of this Jupiter retrograde period, reevaluating these blessings and how they basically like mess us up subconsciously, how other people's thoughts have merged into our perspective of how we see ourselves, and how we continue to play out roles with some of our abusers who manipulate us, and how we make excuses for the way that they kind of like deal with situations. We're holding ourselves accountable. We're also holding them accountable, but I feel like for a lot of us, because we're becoming more aware of how we engage in these patterns and how we've cultivated some of the seeds of these patterns as well, we're actually at a place where we are reevaluating it from our perspective, what we can do differently, and taking it from there. I can see that we are holding other people accountable, but we're not necessarily being forceful on the situation. We're kind of trying our best, I guess, to be able to focus on our work. At least that's where we'll be at the end of the Jupiter retrograde. From what I can see, we will be more open to the greener pastures that are outside of this self-imposed prison that we have created for ourselves mentally and psychologically. So it's all happening for our good, guys. It's all happening for our overall best good, and I'm sure that we'll be able to kind of like see how the process of it all unfolds closer towards, I want to say, around about September times. We'll really start to see the come down of the Jupiter retrograde energy once some of the planets are starting to go back into alignment with their direct transits as well. We'll start to really feel as though, okay, it was great for Jupiter to actually go back there and let me know that I hadn't necessarily finished with this particular work that I needed to do. You know, again, it could be actual physical projects when it comes to career, and it could be emotional projects when it comes to the work that needs to be done, guys, on a mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual level. When I say psychological, it's definitely completely different to the mental, because, you know, the mind has many layers of itself, and there's different psychological patterns that's embedded within the circuit boards of our neurological pathways within our mind space. So we're going through just really making sure that we're actually creating space for some of these new beginnings from a realistic perspective, as opposed to us continuing to have these unrealistic expectations and these silent expectations that aren't being met because they aren't being spoken into fruition. Okay, observing our own hidden agendas as well as the agendas of others, and maybe finding some sort of common resolve or peaceful resolution to be able to come to a common ground and understanding about some of these things. Okay, my loves, that is pretty much everything from me. If you guys do like my vibe and you want to be a part of the tribe, definitely be sure to subscribe and comment down below and let me know how you've been able to effectively utilize the information that I've been able to provide to you in this particular reading. And yeah, let me know how you're actually getting on with the Jupiter retrograde transit. On that note, my loves, I'm going to love you guys and leave it there for you guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, namaste. And take care. God bless, my loves. Ta-ra.
Things they said to hold her back, they never seem to leave her head and tend to keep her mind at war. All the things they said to hold her back, they keep her locked inside of all the times when she's been hurt before.